This video I wanted to talk about, what sales has taught me. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because one, I came from a completely different background, but also I think people's natural reactions to like a sales job can be quite daunting. I think we all know there is a lot of rejection involved in sales, but if you just dig a little bit deeper into what you can actually take from learning the sales skill, there is so much you can learn. There was very few things that I came into this industry with a natural gift, with a natural ability. Everything I learned is a learned skill. And the reason this is important is because I think and I'm talking from personal experience, my perception of someone that was good at sales was they're arrogant, egotistical, like super confident. And I'm telling you now, you don't have to be like that person. And the reason that's important is because there are those people in sales, but there's those people in any industry, in any business, in any career. But you don't have to be like that to be good at sales, to be effective at sales. And everything I'm talking about now, or in this video, you're going to notice that there's not a single point where I talk about natural gift, natural ability. It's all learned. So the list I'm going to now are things I had to learn, and there were things that I weren't good at when I first started, but I had to learn if I wanted to do well. So one of the first skills I learned was definitely people skills. I think, before coming into this industry, you already know I came from a completely different background. I studied forensic science, worked in a lab. I wasn't really exposed to that many people, and naturally, I was quite an introverted person. So, exposing myself to talking to a lot of people every single day, really developed my people skills. If I was ever in large groups, at school or strangers, I wouldn't really talk up, and I'm still a little bit like that today. But I've definitely got a greater inner confidence. And that started by learning sales skills, because it taught me how to deal with people from pretty much every walk of life. I had to have discipline because, naturally that, when you're in a sales role, there's a lot of emotions that fly about. You do take some rejection, and sometimes it can get on top of you. And there were definitely days, especially when I first started, that happened. And then it got to the point where I knew I had to rely on my discipline. I had to rely on my habits to get the results I desired, because until I formed those habits, until I formed that discipline, my results were going to go up and down, up and down, up and down. And once I had a consistent discipline and I kept my actions consistent, my results became consistent as well. This is a topic that's been pretty well covered. But one thing I definitely feared, and it's the same for everyone, was I feared failure. And I know that this is something that holds millions of people back. It still, on some level holds me back today, for sure. But, in sales, you are going to get beat up a little bit. People are going to say no to you. Not everyone you talk to is going to say yes. But I think that's a positive thing. That's development. And, if I hadn't learned resilience, if sales hadn't taught me that skill set, I probably wouldn't have even been doing this video today, because I'd be too concerned about, what people will say. Do you think people will like it? In reality, I don't really mind. I'm just putting a message out there, and hopefully it helps some people. And resilience isn't just a skill that you're going to learn in sales. That's a skill that's important in life as well. So, and again, sales taught me that. I think this is probably the most important one. So probably should have done it as number one, really, but it's definitely attitude. And for me, attitude is just about having a winning mindset. But here's the thing about a winning mindset. I didn't have a winning mindset straight away, right? This is something that can be developed over time. And I think that's a really important bit of advice, because again, when I first started, I saw the people that were doing really well, and I just thought they had naturally a strong mindset, that, nothing affected them. And I knew from the start that mindset was everything. I played sport to an okay standard, and the big separator in whether people did well in sport or didn't, one was natural ability, but also their mindset. If you have all the ability in the world, but you have a terrible mindset, you can only go so far. And the reason sales teaches you attitude is because you're going to be exposed to really, a lot of challenging scenarios. And it's in those moments there where you have a decision. Like, do I push through or do I give up? And there were definitely times where I gave up. There were definitely times where I threw in the towel. But it got to the point where I wanted to move forward and I wanted more results. So I had to make the decision to push through. And that's not a skill, again, that's just suited for sales. That is a life skill, because life is gonna throw you loads of different challenges. And, unfortunately, some people crumble and some people push through. And the ones that push through get the results. The ones that push through generally get the results they desire. But if your mindset, if your attitude is just to give up, then unfortunately you're not going to get very far. And again, my attitude now compared to what it was when I first started is totally different. My outlook on problems is totally different. But as I said, what's really important is it's learned. So attitude is like a muscle, and you're going to get beat up. You're going to get beat up. You're going to get beat up. But then your attitude muscle gets stronger. Just like when you go to the gym. When you first go to the gym, you rip your muscles, but we understand that's a positive thing because it means when your muscles repair, they get stronger and you can lift more weights. Well, it's the same with your attitude. If you lose your attitude, you rip your attitude muscle. It will repair, it will regrow, and then you can take more negatives. So you need to understand that when you're entering the sales industry, your attitude isn't going to be bulletproof to start off with. But it doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. It will get better, it will get stronger, and that's what's going to dictate your results as well. I genuinely believe it's the #1 skill in the world that everyone should learn. And the reason being is because sales is communicating with people, and there's 7.5 billion people in the world. If you can learn to become an effective communicator with people, you're always going to be put in a strong position. Another thing I learned is that if you learn sales, you're always going to be sought after, because every company in the world needs to generate revenue, and how they generate revenue is through sales. So if you learn that skill, you're always going to be valuable to a company. And another thing the sales industry has taught me is everything I've listed today isn't just skills in sales. They're life skills. So stuff like resilience, people skills, attitude, all of those things are going to be useful in your day-to-day life. And one thing that was really apparent when I was working in the lab, which is not something I thought about when I was working there, but on reflection it's true, is when I was being taught and trained by my bosses in the lab, I was being taught and trained to become a good lab assistant. I was being taught and trained how to pipette, syringe stuff, and none of those skills are transferable to life. But when I came into the sales industry, I was being taught about mindset, attitude, pushing through negatives, learning to overcome problems. And those are all transferable to life. And if I hadn't learned sales, there's absolutely no way I'd be in the position I am today. And I definitely feel like I'm a much more developed person than what I was before I came into the industry.